In the opening scene, we are introduced to three individuals, Wayne, Keaton, and Robin. While Wayne is asleep in a parked car, Keaton and Robin don their masks and sneak into a house to kidnap a guy named Gordie. Upon venturing inside, they find him sleeping in his room. The duo prepare to abduct him, but Gordie suddenly starts fighting back. As a result, Robin knees him in the balls, and Keaton hits him with a dose of ether, rendering him unconscious. The kidnappers then throw him into the trunk of the car and drive off. The next morning, the three of them take Gordie out of the trunk. Here, it's revealed that they are all longtime best friends from college and have reunited for Gordie's bachelor party in Red River, Kentucky. They plan to visit all of their favorite distilleries along the Bluegrass Bourbon Trail. However, there is one distillery called Arcadia, which they could never locate ever since they were in college. Following this, the four of them enter their first favorite distillery, but to their dismay, it has now been turned into a winery. Keaton apologizes for not checking the places prior to their visit, but he assures that they will still have a great time, even though wineries are for douches. While the others proceed to have some wine, Gordie decides to wander around the streets, reminiscing about some good old days. Shortly after, he enters a small antique shop where he often used to visit. He is greeted by a woman named Carolyn, the one whom he intended to propose to 10 years ago. At first, Gordie doesn't recognize her, but when she gives some hints, he is taken aback. They then begin their conversation, recalling their days from the past. It turns out Carolyn has preserved all of his belongings, including a wine bottle. There's no escaping the wine here. She suggests that they drink it together now, but Gordie hesitates because he's a recovering alcoholic, sober now for almost 10 years. As their conversation unfolds, Carolyn tells him about the legend of the Bullitt treasure. Back in Prohibition times, the government was hammering down all the distilleries. When the Bullitt family were targeted, they took all of their money out and buried it somewhere in the wilderness. Gordie doesn't believe this is true, but Carolyn reveals that many people have looked for it, and they mysteriously disappeared. Sounds like they found the money to me. Now that he is intrigued by this mystery, Gordie goes back to his friends in the winery and confides everything in them. He further tries to convince them to ditch their plans and look for the buried treasure. Robin and Keaton are against the idea and point out that it's just a tale. However, Gordie reminds them of how Robin used to say that every story is rooted from a truth and that life is meaningless without truth. By that logic, Slender Man and the Grinch are real too, and I don't want to live in that world. This finally convinces all of them, and they agree to look for the treasure. As they continue talking, they're approached by a random guy who tries to hit on Robin. Gordie intervenes and orders him to walk away, but the guy remains adamant. So, Gordie grabs a table knife and points it towards his neck, forcing him to leave. This violent incident shocks the friends, but they choose to ignore it for now. In the next scene, the four best friends make their way towards the woods of rural Kentucky. Disregarding a no trespassing sign as a diversion from the treasure, they start digging in the marked off area. After digging for an entire day, the group sets up their camp and lights up a fire nearby to rest. They then begin to converse over some drinks and cigarettes. Amidst this, Gordie suddenly has his gaze fixated on Robin's chest, which he finds erotic. Apples? Unable to control his emotions, he puts his hand on her, making the situation awkward. Robin is obviously upset, but Keaton talks to her in private and somehow manages to cheer her up. The group then spends a few days digging, hanging out by the campfire, drinking, singing, and getting high. All right, all right, all right. One day, the four best friends are jamming up when they are interrupted by an elderly couple. They introduce themselves as Mr. and Mrs. Hitchens and invite the campers to their nearby house for a home-cooked meal. As soon as they enter the house, Gordie's attention is grabbed by an old, well-preserved rifle. He takes it in his hand to check it out more closely. Upon seeing the way he handles the rifle, Mr. Hitchens speculates that he's a former soldier and asks him where he served. Gordie replies that he was dispatched to Saigon during the Vietnam War in 1968. However, he didn't even get a chance to pull the trigger because their barracks were blown out, and due to his injury, he was sent back home within a week. Hearing this, Mr. Hitchens also shares his story, revealing that he served for the nation during the Second World War. Amidst their conversation, Keaton goes to the washroom where he notices a sign labeled as bullets. This sets him in a panic, so he sneaks into the elderly couple's bedroom to confirm if the house belongs to the Bullits. As he goes on to check the closets and drawers, he discovers a pistol, which he takes for safety. Simultaneously, Mr. Hitchens asks the group about what they're doing in the restricted part of the woods. Robin responds that they're just here to celebrate Gordie's bachelor party, but the elderly couple appears to be skeptical. Mr. Hitchens says that they aren't the first ones to be trespassing and searching for the treasure. He issues a stern warning, saying that anything buried out there is meant to stay lay buried. Just then, Keaton joins them in the dining table, but he accidentally drops the pistol. This makes the elderly couple certain the group is here with ill intentions, and the husband accuses them of stealing his family's treasure. As the situation escalates, Gordie grabs a rifle off the wall and holds Mr. Hitchens at gunpoint, demanding to know his real name. In response, the elderly man admits that he is William Bullitt. As soon as he hears this, Gordie guns him down, leaving the rest of the friends terrified. Robin frantically yells at him for his reckless behavior, but the latter shuts her up. They then lock Mrs. Bullitt in the chicken coop before discussing their next move. After a while of deliberation, Gordie says that they should execute Mrs. Bullitt as well. The rest of the group members hesitate, but Gordie emphasizes that the police can reach them anytime if they leave the woman alive. Left with no other choice, Robin volunteers to shoot and bury the elderly woman by herself. In the aftermath, they spend the entire night cleaning up the mess they've made and leave the place early in the morning. Panicked and exhausted, the friends head to their camping spot in order to tear down their camp and remove all traces of their expedition. Amidst this, Wayne tells Gordie that what he did was wrong and that this incident will follow them for their whole life. Gordie feels disturbed, so he excuses himself for a while, telling the group that he's going to refresh his head. He then wanders back to the house and begins drinking Mr. Bullitt's bourbon stash, lapsing into an unhinged version of himself. When he doesn't return for a while, Robin and Keaton begin searching for him in the woods. They decide to split up, but promise to meet at the rendezvous point after an hour. Not long after, Robin finds Gordie, but he's already in his inebriated state.
"Oh, it's the apples."
He asks her to sit on a tree trunk for a brief conversation. Gordie then apologizes for touching her inappropriately earlier. He claims that he has never intended to harm her and always cared for her. Much to her surprise, he also confesses that he's loved her from the very beginning. As he continues blabbering, Gordie comes extra close to her, so she pushes him away and walks off, telling him to find his own way back. On the other hand, Keaton returns to the same restricted spot. It turns out he had found the treasure during their earlier dig, but he opted to keep it a secret from his friends. Now he stuffs all the cash in his bag before heading back to the rendezvous point. Upon reuniting with Robin, the two make their way to their car, where Gordie has already arrived. As the trio prepares to leave, Gordie notices some bills of cash in Keaton's bag. Now that he's armed with Mr. Bullitt's bullets, he holds Keaton at gunpoint and demands to know the truth. At this moment, Robin pepper sprays Gordie in the eyes before running away. But despite being temporarily blind, Gordie fires off 4 shots in random directions, one of which hits Keaton in the femoral artery. Regardless of the excruciating pain, Keaton somehow manages to crawl off into the woods. Following this, Gordie leaves the pistol in the car and heads off in search of Keaton, with Wayne in tow. Robin uses this opportunity to grab the pistol and follows Gordie. At one point, she is on the verge of shooting him from behind, but Keaton stops her just in time. Robin is shocked upon seeing his deep wound, so she decides to find help. Before that, she hands him the gun for safety and also makes him promise that they'll donate all the money to charity.
Yeah, right.
After a while, Gordie locates Keaton and slowly approaches him while manipulating him not to shoot. He then takes the gun as well as the money bag from him, leaving him to die. On the way, Wayne tries to convince Gordie not to betray his friends, but the latter ignores him. This upsets Wayne, so he storms away from there, abandoning Gordie. The scene then cuts to a flashback from 10 years ago, showing a night when Gordie, Robin, and Keaton were partying at Red River Distillery. After getting wicked drunk, Robin and Keaton dozed off in the car, but Gordie tried his best to keep himself awake. However, as he drove, he fell asleep for a moment, during which he accidentally hit a person. Jolted awake, Gordie stepped out of the vehicle only to discover Wayne taking his final breaths. He soon passed away in his arms. Gordie feared that he would be caught by the authorities, so he decided to bury the corpse in the nearby woods. While doing so, Keaton and Robin woke up and witnessed everything, but the trio swore each other to secrecy. Ever since then, Gordie has been seeing Wayne as the embodiment of his guilt. Back in the present, Robin tears through the forest, but she unfortunately falls down an embankment into a tangle of barbed wire. As a result, Gordie catches up to her. He attempts to shoot her, but there are no bullets in the gun. Turns out Keaton had unloaded the weapon before Gordie could take it from his grasp. Then, a few seconds late, Gordie is shot in the back by Mrs. Bullitt. Here, it's revealed that Robin had spared her the previous night and simply pretended to bury her. In the aftermath, Robin is left to struggle out of the barbed wire on her own with her last bit of strength. She manages to free herself, after which she makes her way towards the Arcadia Distillery. The movie ends with a flashback to a month after Wayne was killed. The 3 friends were sitting in a bar, uncomfortably trying to live a normal life after what they've done. The last shot is the fictitious version of Wayne appearing to Gordie for the first time. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.